Cloud. Hi, I'm Mary Long. Welcome. And today, once again, we have Pastor Siri Strommen, one of my favorite guests. Today, we are going to talk about something that I think is pretty topical. Well, we always try and talk about things that are topical and kind of weave in spirituality, but there's a couple of things that have really struck me. So welcome, Siri. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So you are, I love talking with you because you're much calmer than I am, and you're very theologically educated. You know, you're a pastor, you've studied. We've said this very often. You're still in traditional religion. I am not in traditional religion, but we have the same goal in mind. We want to live a spirit-centered life, right? So a couple of things that I saw in the news that I thought was interesting. And one is there was a woman, I don't know if you saw this series. She was on a flight. She's a gospel singer.
Yeah.
I don't know what her name is. But she was singing gospel songs out loud. And the video that was shown that was taken by a passenger was the flight attendant came up to her and he asked her to please be quiet. And she was like, the Lord is telling me to sing this. And then she like asked people around, and then she started singing again after he walked away. And then when he finally came back and said, basically, you're going to have to get off this plane if you don't stop that. She finally stopped. And part of me, like, I get that. I don't know what it is. It's certainly Christianity. I'm guessing it's other religions too. Yeah, it is, because there's Jehovah's Witness, the Mormons, which is a Christian religion, but feel compelled to get everyone to believe what you believe. And I completely understand this. As I've said many times, I was very enmeshed in my Catholicism, hardcore, for the first 35, 40 years of my life. I ate, drank, and slept it. I taught it. So I do understand that. I understand what it's like to feel so righteous in what you're feeling, that you want everyone else to feel that way too.
Yeah.
But I also wonder about our need to get everyone to believe what we believe. And that's really, when you keep peeling the onions, and we're really facing this. This is something, and I struggle with this. Because of course I want to be a spiritual person. I want to talk about spiritual topics. It's the thing I'm most passionate about, aside from women's rights and women's topics. So a lot of spiritual programs I listen to a lot. You know, they say don't focus on what you don't want. So they just stay away from politics altogether. That doesn't feel comfortable for me. It feels a little bit like burying my head in the sand. And that's okay, to each his own. That's the whole point, is let everyone believe what they believe and behave they want. As long as you're not hurting anyone else, that's fine. So this woman on the plane, you know, she felt she's got to sing. The Lord told her to. And it reminded me too, years ago, I used to have a business partner who was also a really good friend of mine. And she would always say to me, Spirit told me to tell you this. And then she would just rip me apart, like major character.
Oh, no.
But it wasn't her, it was Spirit. And I think that is a lot of Christianity today is God told me. And, you know, if what you're doing or saying is causing another person pain and sorrow, it's not from Spirit, it's from you. That's your personal agenda. And, you know, we have a new Speaker of the House in the last few weeks, Mike Johnson. We might have mentioned him before, who is a Christian nationalist. I mean, he makes no bones about it. He belongs to, I wrote it down. It's called, you probably heard of it, the New Apostolic Reform, the New Apostolic Reform. And their goal, they seek to dissolve the separation of church and state by any means necessary. Yeah. And that's the key there. And the public religion research, I was just reading this, said 1/3 of white evangelicals favor political violence. And I think that's why this man that used to be president and is running for president again is so popular, because they're so comfortable with violence. And I'm wondering, I was thinking of, we used to remember Onward Christian Soldiers.
Oh yeah, marching us
problem, like, you are disciples for Christ, go out there and conquer. Yeah. And it just seems like this snowball that's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I wonder why. Because this is something, I have so many questions. You know, when you sit and stop just following what you've been told your whole life, and you start asking questions and peeling the layers of the onion, why are we so compelled to get everyone to believe what we believe, because
Yeah.
that seems to be Christians in the mainstream today. Everyone has to believe what they believe. They are hell-bent on making this a theocracy. They think that will be the best thing for all of us. Obviously, they've never studied history, because
Yeah.
theocracies end up bloodshed,
I know.
suffering, sorrow. It's just mind-boggling to me. And I wonder, as a pastor, where do you stand on this, Siri? How do you wade these waters between politics and religion, and everyone having to believe the same thing?
I know. So there's a lot to unpack here. I'm going to do my best to hit the different pieces. Right where you asked, though, I sometimes surprise people by saying I'm massively in favor of a separation of church and state, and that I'm very, very against Christian nationalism. I'm not a fan of the whole, prayer in school movement and sort of these things, because ultimately it is about control, and it's about a very particular agenda. So the kind of Christianity that they want the United States to turn into is a very frightening Christianity that is not at all what I believe. It is one that uses control. It's very authoritarian, very hierarchical in its beliefs, very narrow in its beliefs, very black and white. And that's not at all what I believe. So while there's on the face, this is Christian, no, this isn't Christian. This is a very particular brand of Christianity that glorifies power and control and authoritarianism. To me, that's contradictory to the message of Jesus. And I would honestly be a threat to that particular brand of Christianity. I can see very much how, if they did manage to achieve their goals, a person such as myself would be someone they'd be watching and potentially threatening and controlling.
Either deported or put in jail.
Yeah, because the messages I have would not be in line with the messages they would want me to preach as a Christian pastor. So taking this all the way back, though, one of the things I have taught that I find really important on a human level is deep within all of us, I believe, is this beautiful core of that comes from spirit, that comes from God, that comes from the universe. And this core is by nature compassionate, curious, creative, calm, clear, all the beautiful things. But the minute we come on earth, that's sort of buried by the personality that we are, who's trying to figure out this world. And honestly, this world can be terrifying. And we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know a lot. And so we kind of have these parts of us that come in to try to figure out, how do I get loved? How do I get worthy? How do I survive in this world? Well, I need to make my parents love me. I need to do what's right with my peers. I need to belong to the right group. And where religion fits in with that is that when you feel like you've got the right religion and you're in the right belief system, that satisfies that deep need we have to belong and to be right and to be okay and to be worthy. And we can call that the ego. We can call that whatever it is. And I don't want to say it's bad. It's what we all have. And deep inside, we all have the need to be okay. And it's also a very immature thought process that's like us, them, black, white, in, out. And so we actually can get an ego boost from feeling like we're a part of the right religion. Good news, we got born into the right religion, hooray. And there's an amazing sense of superiority that we can feel by having, glory be, I figured it out. And you take on top of that the Christian belief that we're supposed to go out and make disciples. Like, I wish Jesus never said, go ye into the nations and baptize. Like, if that one line was gone from the gospel, Christianity might be very different, because it has taken the wrong way, taken by the ego. It has reinforced that notion of Christian superiority and Christian supremacy, where everyone has to be like us for your own good, right? That's always the creepy part. We're doing this for your own good. And when those collective immature human parts take over, we start to use violence and abuse and control and power as our means and methods because we believe we have the righteous goal of making sure everybody's in the right faith for their own good. And it takes a lot of maturity and a lot of self-awareness to step back and go, this is not great. If someone else was doing this to us, we would be crying. There's a huge problem here. One of the things I believe every faith actually seeks us to go deep inside and find that core that I talked about and let that core come out more and more and more and be what leads us in life so that the ego and those other parts of us can kind of like step back and relax. But unfortunately, a lot of the leaders that we see are so ego-led. They're so ego-based that they don't understand and are even threatened by and are confused or laugh at and make fun of the more gentle, humble, non-controlling religious and spiritual practices. Right now, I really believe that we need to be looking at religion or any belief system by the fruits it produces, and if it makes people healthier or if it makes people less healthy, meaning they're feeling fear, shame, guilt, all of that stuff that can be very debilitating. And you can't convince me it's right if it produces those bad fruits. So I feel like that's a huge renaissance we need to have, is to really be honest on a deep level with our human systems and really, really look down to the roots of what it's producing. So that was a long answer, but really the reason I think
okay. I ask long questions, so you
yeah,
can get long answers.
I really do think that we want other people to believe what we believe because it makes our ego feel like, thank God, I figured it out. I've got it right. I'm worthy. I'm okay. I'm lovable because I'm right. And to threaten that is terrifying on a deep fundamental level when we haven't found that core, that eternal core to ourselves. Because when we find that eternal core, we don't have to be right. We can just say, hey, this is what I believe. And someone else says, I don't believe that. And you're like, cool, peace out. You know, you don't need to, because you know your values more than that. But when your values tied to the fact that you've got it right, it's terrifying to think that you don't.
Oh, I think that's key right there. And I can relate to this 100% because that is how I felt when I was a practicing Catholic. I did feel superior. I mean, that was the one true apostolic religion. That's part of our prayer. I felt superior. We tolerated the other religions. I pitied them a little bit because I didn't believe, what we believed. I was lucky. I got born into Catholicism, so I got born into the right religion.
Yeah.
If you mature and if you are willing to keep an open mind, and if you are willing to say and acknowledge the truth, which is, I believe what I believe because somebody told me this is what the truth was. All the people I grew up around, all the people I looked up to, I was trained to believe what they taught me to believe. It doesn't mean it's true. It feels true because it's what we were taught is the truth. But also the truth, when it comes to religion, spirituality, it's really pretty subjective. This is the thing that I find really, even for myself, sometimes I have to catch myself short and say, this is really all conjecture. I mean, we're all kind of got our own ideas. I mean, there's a million philosophies out there right now. Some people say you have to manifest your destiny. You got to write it down. You got to do a vision board. You got to do this. Other people say, go with the flow. You have to surrender to life. Say yes to it. There's whatever works for you. Great. I don't know, honestly, if there is one ultimate truth, except I will say, if you have ever really experienced the connection, I've had it fleeting, just where you feel like a lot of what people have had near-death experiences describe as just that feeling of complete peace, nirvana, unconditional love, connection with this one divine source, whatever it is. If you've actually ever experienced that, you could not believe that anyone preaching hatred and division and calling other people evil and vermin is in any way in touch with their inner spirit of truth, divine, God, Fred, Mohammed, whatever you want to call it. It's not possible. So when I hear people talking like that, I get it, because I went in all those years of religion, I don't think I ever really had any kind of amazing, I don't want to say out of body, I was in my body, but just a really incredible spiritual experience. I had some lovely times, but
Yeah.
not what I've had since I've really kind of just been out on my own and seeking and meditating and asking for direct answers on my own.
Yeah.
And I think if you do that, you would be surprised to find at how unlike this God is to the God that most Christians, the Christianity most Christians practice, and the God that they worship is nothing like that. That's been my experience. And so our need, and I honestly think, again, this is all, nobody can prove anything. So everybody just take a step back, because nobody
Calm down.
we're all just doing the best we can,
Yeah.
find some way to live in some kind of peaceful way in this world. No, I forgot what I was at now. I was pontificating and I completely lost my strain. But maybe the reason that we do feel that need, and I felt that need as a practicing Christian to get everyone to believe what I believe, is because maybe somewhere deep down inside, I kind of knew that wasn't the right track, and I wasn't really as connected to the divine as I thought, but I was following all the rules and doing everything right. So everyone else should follow all these rules and do everything right like me, because there's power in numbers. And if millions of us say this is the truth and this is the way it is, well, then good. Then I feel like I'm on the right side. Maybe that's part of it, of why we feel so compelled to get everyone to believe what we believe, is because maybe deep down, because honestly, Siri, you're a very spiritual woman. I try to be. I'm not going to put myself in your category, but the last thing I want is to cause anybody else suffering or pain. And that's the last. If I do that, if I go to bed at night and that day I knew I hurt someone's feelings or made someone cry or said something, which that's really in my book of repertoire, saying something without thinking that maybe hurt someone, I feel terrible. That's how you should feel. You shouldn't be holding a banner of God and using your words and actions to hurt people. Because if you are, I don't know who that God is, but it's not this divine source of love that created this universe. Not in my experience anyway.
Yeah. And a couple of things about that. One is, I think that a really healthy religion and spirituality, a healthy community, is going to offer teachings loosely and say, this is guidance, this is coming from somewhere, this is where it's coming from, but we'll be open to people thinking and asking questions and turning things around. And if somebody says something like, well, I don't know if I believe that, to give them a little bit of freedom to play with that and to figure that out. To me, that's a healthy system that's allowing, yes, you have guidance, but you have freedom and openness. Sometimes people think that unless you kind of brainwash people into a certain belief system, that it's going to be a free-for-all and people are not going to know what the heck to think. But you can give guidance. The other piece that I think is really interesting, because I was thinking about, you said with the woman singing on the plane and the God laid it on my heart to tell you this type of a thing.
Yes.
I think in a healthy system too, one of the things we can do a much better job of is teaching people how to connect deeply with their intuition, and do it in a way where we get to practice in a mature way. Because in my Lutheran background, we don't do that at all. We don't talk about intuition. We don't talk about channeling. We don't talk about a direct line to God. That's it. You keep it in your head. You keep it all up here. But on the other hand, it's not a spiritual, just whatever comes into your head must be from the spirit. To me, that's been a beautiful maturing that I've had to do, is to sit quietly and to journal and to get messages and to practice, where is this voice coming from? Is this voice coming from a part of me that's trying to sound spiritual and mature? God bless her. Like, she's trying, but she's not the thing. Or is this coming from true guidance? And I'm starting to be able to get better at feeling the difference. One feels sort of like an energy moving through me, and the other feels a little bit more forcing. And also when I go back and read it later, the one is just like, holy cow, where did this come from? And it's so, to me, and it's always loving, it's always wise, it's never harmful to me or anyone else. It's always a little bit just very like calm and just like, well, you could do this, you could do this. And teaching us to, it's handing over a level of control and saying you can practice and have connection with the divine in a powerful way, but we're going to practice and talk about, the best way to do that. Have I mentioned the stages of faith too before?
I don't know that you have. I don't remember you bringing them up, but please feel free.
I just kind of learned about this recently, and this was really profound for me. But it basically, there was a man who kind of came out of the psychological field, and he said there's 6 stages of faith development that humans go through. And the first 2 are traditionally the first 10, 11 years of life. They're very black and white. God is maybe a white dude up in a cloud, just very, with a beard, very literal. And you talk to little kids and they just can't conceive of anything more than what they can conceive of, right? You can't blame them for not understanding deep abstract concepts. That's just where they are. But once they get into stage 3, that sort of teenage stage, adolescence, you're starting to have the capability to think a little bit more about things. And you can stop there. In fact, I think most religion does stop there. But stage 4 is where people start to, what you went through, you go, oh my gosh, I have questions. Things don't add up. Oh no. And it might even feel like a crisis of faith, like things are falling apart.
Big time.
Yeah, you're deconstructing faith that doesn't make sense to you. And for some people, that's so scary, they might go back to stage 3 and firmly shut their brain down. But for people who move through that into stage 5, often come out with this beautiful sense of more of a connection with the personal connection to the divine, more of a sense of, well, there's many paths to God. There's many ways to do things. Less control, more open, able to see the nuance of spirit and the beauty of things. And then stage 6 is like, well, that's like the Buddha and Jesus, right? Like you're so in tune and in one and in harmony with all things. You're living completely out of your core self. That's a goal, but it's probably not going to happen more than fleeting moments for me in my lifetime. But that was so helpful for me to see that, and to see some people are in 1 and 2, even as adults, whether it's because they've been taught that's all they can be, or whether it's because their brain can't make the shift into the abstract. But I'd love for people who can be encouraged and challenged. I'd love for it to be much more open in all the faiths, for us to carry people through and into stage 4 and into 5. And how beautiful that would look to have more mature leaders who were in those higher stages, who had wrestled a little bit with the alligators inside themselves. And, it's Jacob wrestling with the angel. It's you walk away limping, but you're a little bit more mature when you're done with it. So I just found that really helpful. And also it gave me a little bit more grace when I saw someone who was clearly exhibiting, stage 2 or 3 of faith. I'm like, okay, that's just where they are. And I'm freaking them out. Maybe I can calm down a little bit because I'm too out there for them, Anyway, I found that really helpful.
I appreciated that. Yeah, that was very helpful. I think the biggest question we have to ask ourselves, well, you don't have to, the biggest question I think that would produce results is, why do I believe what I believe? Is it from my direct experience? Or is it because this is what everybody's told me to believe? This is what everyone around me believes. So I've never really taken the time to examine it or do research, just like we've spoken about before about the origins of the Bible. Everyone's like, this is the word of God. Well, it's not. It's a book that Constantine threw together because he was a pagan and Christians were on the rise and he was afraid he'd lose his throne. So he's like, let's put this book together, but let's leave out troublesome parts that we don't like, which is basically any parts where Jesus was saying, love your enemy, accept everyone, don't judge each other,
Women can be in power too,
Right, exactly. Yeah. All that stuff. No, seriously. But honestly, all that stuff. And I think it's really important that we ask these questions. I especially, and I will totally cop to this. I have a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger. I still do. I'm much more peaceful. But when I start realizing, but I think, especially in Catholicism, but certainly Christianity is very much still, and some are even way more extreme than Catholicism when it comes to women as servants and not having any power. But the religion I was raised in says, no, you are a female, you are not equal, you will not be able to serve in an equal capacity as men. My religion also moved priests around that were sexually assaulting children. This went on for decades, probably centuries, as I always say, and they still haven't really rectified it. They paid out money, but they haven't said, hold the phone, we got to stop right now. But nope, covered up. So I think there are some things worth getting angry about. I don't think we should be putting frosting on garbage. And there's a lot of garbage here. And just putting some sweet smelling cherry frosting on it with lots of sugar is not going to change the fact that underneath is garbage that needs to be taken out and cleaned out from the bottom up. So I do have issues. I don't want to see traditional religions destroyed. I'm very fine with people believing what they believe. But when your beliefs are causing other human beings pain, when your beliefs cause you to restrict other people's freedom, and this is what always kills me with people when they get into gays or whatever, and they're like, oh, so we should just let people who want to have sex with animals have sex with animals, and people who want to have sex with children. Okay, those are crimes, all right? Being gay is not a crime. People want to make it a crime, some people. It's not a crime. It's two consenting adults expressing their love for each other. How in any stretch of the imagination does that affect you, your life, your freedoms, or your beliefs? It doesn't. It's just you've been trained to believe this is bad, and there's a God in the sky that doesn't like it, and it's your job to stop it from happening. And my question would be, why did God create those people like that if he wants you to stop it? It makes no sense. If what people are doing, people getting abortions, we talked about this. If you think it's a sin, that's okay. If that's what you've been trained to believe, and this is what this all is. Make no mistake about it. This is what we are. We are walking, we are regurgitating everything we've been trained to believe, unless we've gone off on our own, sat quietly, and had our own experiences. And even then, we're still, even me, I do that all the time, and I'm still prone to mass conscious beliefs and all my training from all my lifetime. But again, pontificating and lost my train of thought. I don't know, maybe it's just a postmenopausal thing or something. But that's my biggest thing, is people that are so certain they know what's right, and we got to stop this and we got to stop that. Why? If these people aren't hurting you personally or anyone around them, and women who have abortions are not hurting you, gays practicing a homosexual lifestyle, not hurting you. If this person was born a boy and now they identify as a girl, not hurting you. None of this is hurting you except your beliefs. And what you got to ask is, why are your beliefs so fragile that I need everyone else to believe what I'm believing in order to feel safe? That's a big question.
Yeah, it is a big question. And I think there's wisdom to the statement of question everything. And at the same time, there's an assurance that as you begin to pull on those threads, if it's not true, it will fall apart. if it's true, it will remain. Good news, the junk is going to fall away. And the thing that really is deeply true, you cannot, it doesn't fall apart. You know, truth is truth is truth. And lies, you eventually find them out and you see them. So in my personal journey with this, in my faith life is I have been slowly giving myself more and more permission to question lots of different parts of my faith. I still consider myself, I should say, a follower of Jesus, because sometimes the word Christian feels
Yeah, I don't want to
too
be
much
one
of
of
a
those
box,
these
right?
days.
But I've allowed myself, and God literally knows this, because that's my whole adult journey is I feel like every 6 months God's like, and now you're going to be interested in this.
Mm.
And you're gonna go down this rabbit hole, and this is going to expand you a little bit more and a little, right? And there have been moments where I've thought, oh gosh, where am I going to end up? But there's this beautiful core that doesn't go away. It's sort of like the ornaments on the Christmas tree fall away and I see what the real tree is. I see what's really underneath it all that's not going to go away. And I've had just beautiful experiences of teachers and books and retreats and my own personal like writings, where it helps me to just continue to clarify what is the core of everything. And when you find that, it really is so beautiful. You stop caring about some of this other stuff. And you wonder why people are so upset about needing to believe this or hold on to this or whatever. So if anyone's afraid of that journey of, oh no, I have to question what happens. You know, am I going to end up like an atheist? Am I going to, you know, what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that the journey is far more beautiful than what people realize. And there's rocky moments where things fall away, where that can be a little disillusioning. But it really is, where you can end up is at a very beautiful place where you feel more free, and you just, you get to just release so much baggage you didn't even know you were carrying. And that to me has been my journey, and I'm still going on it. But drop another bag. Oh, drop another bag. Didn't even know I was carrying that one. Drop another bag.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. My journey out of traditional religion. And I'm not saying that all traditional religion is bad. Like get rid of all of it. I do believe it's most of them are founded in patriarchy. I do have issues with that, but I don't think the way that they're operating at this point, especially this rise in this Christian nationalism, and I don't even know, I don't think Christ would even recognize that if he came back and saw who was representing him and what they were doing. I think he'd be like, wait, they're following my teachings? Where? Show me what they're doing. Where are they loving the poor, helping the sick, not judging their neighbors? Like his teachings were all about inclusivity, love, non-judgment. That's who he hung out with, right? That's what we were taught. He didn't go sit with the Pharisees and say, let's spread a banquet before us and talk about how spiritually superior we are. He went to the people who needed him. And there was a quote I saw a week ago, and it's true. It said, I am so sick of people with scripture in their mouths and hate in their hearts.
Yes.
And that's where, honestly, I feel like I'm exhausted from it. I love a lot of people that believe things I do not believe, especially politically. They follow this man that used to be president that's running again. It boggles my mind. But in other ways it doesn't, because I know these people very well, and I know some of the core things, but I don't feel a need to get them to change what they believe. My issue is, because it may sound like I'm being hypocritical, but I'm not, because we do need to speak up when what people are believing and acting on is affecting the whole in a negative way. If people are suffering because of what other people are doing, especially if those people are more vulnerable than you, being like a white middle-class person, is not a real dangerous position.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who are in danger from these policies that are being brought forth. And I do feel that we do have a responsibility to speak up and do what we can to change the trajectory of the way this humanity is going right now. But I believe very much in a nonviolent ways of doing that. I don't want to, like they said, 1/3 by any means necessary, and they're fine with violence. I don't know how anyone after January 6th, seeing those policemen being beaten with poles and smashed in doors, like how anyone can still be okay. That was watching humanity in real time suffer like that. It should have broken us all. It should have brought us all to the table and said, okay, this is as far as it goes. I'm astounded that there's still a lot of people. I've talked to people that still think that was one of the greatest days that should be celebrated forevermore. That's their belief system. Yes, I'm not interested in trying to get everyone to think the way I think. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm kidding myself. What I would really like is if people would leave each other alone. I would love it if people could just, the question should be, is this person's behavior hurting innocent people around them? That's the question, right? And if it is, then I should step in here and I should say something, because I think it's our obligation as human beings to not just stand by and let other people suffer. But if what that person is doing, there's no victims, nobody's getting hurt except your belief system, what you've been trained to believe, that's a whole different thing. Your beliefs getting hurt, or if it's butting up against your beliefs, it's not a crime. It's not a crime. And maybe ask yourself why you feel so attacked just because someone doesn't believe what you believe.
Yeah, and there's a certain way of thinking that really does believe might is right, and looks to strong, loud people as being, that's an example of strength. And personally, it's kind of an immature way of understanding the world. It's a very simple way of understanding the world. They can often see gentle acts of compassion as being weakness, and we know that's not true. We actually know it can be a lot harder and take a lot more courage to be gentle and to be soft and to be compassionate. You have to really keep your heart open. But I do think that those of us who do feel about how we do about compassion and empathy and creating a world where all people can thrive, a sustainable world, that just is able to chug along with lots of hope and greenery and life. And, that for those of us that have that belief and want to do that, we do need to speak out and not use the violent, immature methods that are out there, but show people there's another way, because I do believe for some people, they just kind of need to be taught there's another way to live. Because this way, it's a very simple way to understand, this is how we do things. We're right. I'm going to get you. Yeah. It's very simple. And I do believe that for some people, when they see another way, they go, oh, I never thought of that. I like that maybe that is better. So we do need to talk about this, and we do need to, in some ways, be loud, but not using those immature tactics of violence and control, to show another way. Because I do think there are a lot of us who are very kind of the old souls, very compassionate and caring. But with that often comes a tendency to be quieter and gentler, because we know that's a better way, and we don't feel like we want to be so aggressive and make everybody do what we want, and we shouldn't. But at the same time, it is a good time for us to speak up and say, my friends, there's a better way. This way is leading down a bad path. And stop, reflect. This is a better path. Let's talk through some of these things. Think about it. Use your heart. Open your heart a little bit. Think about this with your heart too. And I do think there are some people that kind of have these little epiphanies and go, oh, never thought of it that way. Maybe I should rethink this.
You made some really good points there. And you made me think of last year when I was in Mount Shasta. I might have mentioned this once before, when during this meditation, I got this message very clearly, especially for women. I think it was directed for women, which is the time for being timid is over. You need to be bold. It's time to be bold, which is difficult for women because we're not taught to be bold. We're taught to be very quiet and not assert ourselves at all. But when you were talking to, I was thinking, also we do come about this need for everyone to believe what we believe kind of naturally, because we're really raised in conformity,
Yeah.
Catholic school, especially, you even dress the same, but
Sure.
everything is about, think when you're a teenager, right? The thing
Yeah.
you want most is to stand out and be unique. And the thing you want most is to be accepted and be like everyone else. It's
Yeah.
like the polar. I don't know that ever completely goes away. I think if you're doing life right, you get older and wiser, and you don't let that lead your decision making, that need for acceptance. But we do all we want things to stay the way we've been taught they should be. This is how we should do this. Even think when couples get married, what's the right way to do Christmas? That's not the right way to do Christmas.
I know.
It's like, yeah, we're so ingrained in the way we're taught to do things is the right way.
Right.
And I get that. And like I said, I still have a lot of struggles within my own head, but I think the biggest question to ask, especially women, start asking, why do I need everyone to believe what I believe? Is what that person's doing hurting me? Is it affecting my civil liberties, my religious rights? Or it's not. So why do you feel compelled to stop that person or make that person believe what you believe? Why is that such a compulsion of ours to get everyone believing the same thing? There is a very huge movement in this country right now to make this a theocracy. And they think that will just be the best thing ever. And like I said, obviously these people have not really studied history, because no theocracy has ever thrived wonderfully. And people are happy and well taken care of, and everybody has mutual respect for each other. Doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. So if you're really invested in making everyone believe what you believe, and feel like this one religion, one belief system is the right way, just start asking yourself why. Why does everyone have to believe what I believe? Why do I need everyone to follow these same things? And do yourself a favor, study some history of theocracies, see how that's worked out in the past. So many people come forward and say, and I'm not a believer in propagating fear, but they say if we don't learn from the past, we're destined to repeat it. Many people are seeing all these signs of a pretty dangerous road that we're going down if we don't stop and change direction and start asking some hard questions. So I think it's really pertinent right now that we ask ourselves questions. And the biggest question is, why do I need everyone to believe what I believe? Because what I believe is right. Okay, well, why is what you believe right? Because this is what I've been taught to believe. And that's the bottom line we have to get to. And it's scary, Siri. I can remember being like, if I don't believe this, then what do I believe? It's like the rug gets pulled out from under you.
Yeah.
We're not following this program where the people are telling me what to believe in this nice, safe little square. If I'm not following that, then what? And you know what? It's probably going to be a bit scary for a while, but hopefully more of us that are opening our minds and willing to maybe look at life and religion and spirituality a different way, the more of us, maybe as other people change their views, they won't feel so scared and alone. So we could say, yes, we've been there. Here, we'll hold your hand. You can get through it. And it's so beautiful on the other side of this.
Exactly. That's the thing, is so many people have asked these questions. There's so many people out there who have come out on the other side and are good, kind leaders. And that's something that I feel very strongly about, is find teachers, find people who are your next teacher. So I always feel like that is something I'm really awesome at finding, like spirit, God sends me the next teacher that I need in that moment to teach me what I need. And they always seem to line up with where I am to kind of push me a little further, but they're very kind. They're very open. They're very wise. And a lot of them are like, you don't have to believe what I'm saying, make up your own mind. There's no sense of like control cultish type of I'm the only one who knows the way. And oftentimes I really absorb, and it's really helpful what they say. And then a year or two later, I find another amazing teacher online or a book or something that opens me up a little bit more, and trusting to have sent the right people your way. And you can ask for that too. You can say, I need someone who's going to meet me where I am and maybe take me to the next step. Because some of the people that I'm really jazzed about following now would have freaked me out 10 years ago.
Yeah,
It would have been too much for me. But like, I was led on this beautiful path, teacher to teacher to teacher. And I know the path just keeps going. And for me, it's exciting. It's fun because I feel like the world and the universe just gets bigger and more interesting. And it helps give me a lot more clarity on some of the issues going on in the world. It gives me a new framework in which I can look with things that I feel is more compassionate, but also helps me to go, you know what, this isn't a big deal. This we need to talk about as human beings. This we need to address. This we need to work on collectively. This that everyone's getting so upset about, it's not going to matter in 5 years. It's not going to matter in 6 months. It's not going to matter in 10 years. This is going to impact people. And so that's the beauty of really asking questions and reflecting and sitting back and not just, I think if you do have someone who's like, listen to me, I know what's right, that's a real red flag, because no enlightened teacher has ever said that. Even Jesus, I believe, was like, I'm telling you my personal experience and I'm giving you the information I believe is true, but you have every right to walk away from me. I'm not going to make you stay. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do or think. If you follow me, I'm going to guide you, but I'm not locking any doors here. You go if you want to go.
I think that's a really good point. There's something my daughter said that I just found it so powerful, and I've been using it. And that is it a rule or a choice? That's a good question to ask, because I catch myself, because I have certain things, I like to do, in the morning, how to start my day, do yoga, do this, do meditation or whatever. And sometimes, and I found this especially when I was following religion, I remember I got on a plane to go to Mexico and found out you needed passports. I didn't bring my passport. And I was like, oh, I knew I should have gone to mass this morning. If I'd have gone to mass, I would have my passport and this wouldn't have happened. Because I was very much thinking, if I follow the rules and do what I'm supposed to do, things will work out good for me. But if I don't, and mass is a big thing with Catholicism. I don't know about a lot of the other religions, but I missed mass. So now I'm being punished because that's kind of how I was taught. So now when I do any of these spiritual practices, and I still struggle with this all the time, religion still creeps in, and it's not all bad, but I ask myself, is this a rule or is this a choice? And also different things, even this in the spiritual New Age movement, I do find that there's a lot of conformity. A lot of people need you to believe what they believe. You got to be a vegan. You got to dress like this. You got to act like this. You got to do this, sage this. This is unholy. This isn't. Even like when I'm saging or, blessing myself with holy waters or holy oils, I say out loud, I am not doing this to appease some God in the sky. I am doing this to remind myself of my own sacredness, exactly as I was created in the eyes of that which created me. And that's really helping me, because I spent my whole life trying to get to a place where I was good enough. I'm following all these rules. Am I good enough yet? Am I holy enough yet? Will God put its favor on me, or whatever that saying is? But I think that's a good rule of thumb to ask yourself whenever you're doing anything spiritual, because I find when I'm in a good place, not always, but whatever practice I'm doing just feels so opening and so oh, it's just amazing. Just that feeling of connection and love. And when I'm following rules that I believe are what I need to do in order to connect with spirit, it just kind of falls flat.
Yeah, spirituality and faith should have a level of play to it. There should be a level of like curiosity and discovery and playfulness. And um, I like to adapt, and I tend to continue doing the practices that honestly feel good. Um, so I've slowly added, I put essential oils and stuff on me. And am I slowing down here?
A little bit. You just started.
I think
Uh-oh.
my battery's getting low. Can I run and grab a little charger real quick? And
Absolutely. Hold on. Let's just put it on.
yeah, we can
Go get your charger.
Okay.
All right. We're back with the computer all plugged in and ready to go. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So Siri, if you want to kind of just wrap up some final thoughts for you on what we've been discussing, and also let us know where else we can find your work.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'd say right now I feel as if we're seeing in the world a real struggle between an old way of control, and you have to believe what I believe in authoritarianism. And that's coming out in many, many forms. And I feel like, fingers crossed, it's sort of the death gasps, the last fighting blows of an old way. And what's being birthed and what's slowly growing in consciousness and humanity is a much more compassionate, open, invitational way of living that's just frankly feels very terrifying to the old. Not only because they lose power, but because it feels too loosey-goosey and they don't understand it. And so they're like, well, you're going to go in a bad way. You're swimming in the deep end. Don't do it. You're going to drown. They don't understand that those of us swimming in the deep end know how to swim. And it's beautiful out here. It's so much more fun than staying in the shallow end. So I say that for hope. And then I also say, if you're feeling any fear about this, just start here. Start with yourself. Start with your own journey, and find some good teachers, some good support, some good guides, because there's such beautiful stuff on the other side.
Very well put. I would just add to that as well. Get quiet. Sit quiet with yourself.
Yeah.
Keep a paper and pen by you, because all the wisdom you need, you're going to find it right inside of you. You don't need to go looking everywhere. You don't have to get everybody dressed at 6 o'clock in the morning and rush out to church. Sorry, I know you do church on Sunday.
Not at 6 o'clock, that's for sure.
Yeah, just start getting quiet. Start letting that wisdom within you come up, and it'll guide you. It'll steer you in the right direction.
Yep.
Okay. And Siri, where can people find some more of your amazing work?
Well, if you go to SiriStrommen.com has got links to my teachings. It has links to my music, but Siri Strommen on YouTube as well. I have a lot of teachings there as well.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank
you. As always, Siri, very grateful to have you here, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
All righty. Bye-bye.